Covenant weapons in Halo 2 have many unique quirks, making each one stand out from each other. Plasma pistols, plasma rifles, needlers. The longer you look at them, the more something feels off. Not broken, not random, but designed. Every surface seems to move and be textured for a reason. So today, we slow everything down. We're going to inspect every Covenant weapon the player can carry in Halo 2, looking at projectiles and details you may have missed. Plasma pistol has a simple shape. No magazine, no barrel in the traditional sense, just a compact foreign frame with a glowing green effect at the quote-unquote barrel. The dark bluish metal has layers of iridescent turquoise and purple shine, and matte fabric or some rubber type material softer part. An unusual, mysterious red button surrounded by some details. It also has the strange Covenant text that has never been translated. A center ring shaped overheat hologram bar. Notice the edges of the ring slice are not straight lines, but have like a little lock and key shape that would fit together if closed. And the moment you fire it, it stops behaving like a familiar weapon the UNSC are used to. A bolt of plasma forms instantly, sputting out of a quick green flash. No visible casings, no mechanical ejection. Just energy appearing and launching forward. But the real system only shows itself when you push it further. Hold the trigger too long and the weapon changes state. The energy begins pulling between the barrel prongs. The glow intensifies with energy visibly being sucked into it. The entire frame starts to vibrate. This isn't just charging a shot. It's redirecting energy into a single usable burst. Then it releases a tracking plasma bolt that can strip shields instantly. But that's not the strange part. The strange part is what happens when it overheats. The top of the weapon splits open. The top layer physically separates. Gas vents outward away from the user, and the weapon refuses to function until it cools down. You get a peek into the internal system, and right beside that top panel is some kind of yellow blobs. Soft looking, almost padded. No explanation is ever given that I could find for these yellow objects, but its placement is consistent. Close to the hottest part of the weapon, which suggests one thing. It's not decoration, it's some kind of thermal control, either insulation or heat direction, or something designed to survive repeated plasma venting at close range. And once you notice it here, you start seeing it on other weapons too, especially the plasma rifle. The plasma rifle is the pistol's larger sibling, given to more trustworthy Covenant species, the elites. Seemingly the same energy type, but now blue. No noticeable turquoise or purple shine like the plasma pistol, though it has beautiful line patterns. We start to see the Covenant stamp shapes that will reoccur in other weapons. It has these strange fins on it that stump me about how they function or what is their function. A much more intricate overheat bar, though strangely, it is only on one side of the gun, so you can't see it when dual wielding on the left rifle. And it faces away when left-handed Covenant are using it, like the Jackal and drones. But the same core behavior, scaled up into sustained fire. Instead of single shots, though lacking an overcharge, it can spew plasma continuously until heat becomes a problem. Then it happens again. Panels open, gas vents outward, The weapon physically exposes its internal chamber. This motherboard-looking interior is briefly shown. And again, that same yellow material sits closely beside the vent system, which is where things start to line up. Two weapons, that same material placement, same overheating behavior, same venting mechanism. This isn't random modeling, it's a repeated system design. The weapon is telling you this is where heat leaves. But the system doesn't stop there, because the brutes took this design and pushed it further. At first glance, it's just a recolored plasma rifle. Blue becomes red. But the behavior also changes slightly. It has a faster fire rate, more aggressive output, less stability, but it's the same system, just pushed beyond safe limits. This is why it overheats faster, and why it feels less controlled. The Covenant plasma rifle manages energy. The Brute version overwhelms it. Same architecture, but different philosophy. And the same venting system still exists underneath it all. Still opening, releasing heat, exposing that same internal structure, which means something important. Even Brute modifications don't change the core design, but they stress it. But not all Covenant weapons rely on heat. Some rely on something much stranger, like growing ammunition inside the weapon itself. The Needler has a dull purple body with green center, full of this pitted texture. This strange Covenant text we saw in the plasma pistol returns. The Needler shouldn't make sense. It doesn't reload in a traditional way. It doesn't eject casings. It doesn't even clearly store ammunition in a magazine. Instead, it grows it. Crystals physically rise into firing position. One disappears, another one replaces it, as if the weapon is manufacturing ammo internally. Each shot launches a homing crystal. It curves through the air and embeds itself into targets. And when enough needles accumulate, about 8, they detonate together. But the real mystery is storage. Where are the extra crystals coming from? The internal structure is pretty small. The weapon fires too many rounds, which suggests one of two things. Either the internal ammunition is heavily compressed, or the weapon is generating ammo on demand. And that idea changes everything, because it means the Needler isn't just firing projectiles, it's producing them. But even that isn't the strangest Covenant weapon, because one of them just doesn't fire ammunition, it fires radiation rods. The Carbine looks like a rifle, majority purple, shading like a carapace, a similar Covenant stamp we saw on the plasma rifles. Long barrel, and this time an ammo counter rather than an overheat bar. It has the ability to zoom in with a unique layout, but no physical scope that I could make out on the model. But the ammunition is anything but human. Each shot releases a glowing green projectile, fast, precise, and clean. But it looks almost radioactive. And even the weapon itself never hides it. Even the reload exposes the magazine that's shaped like a bottle. A hybrid design. Unlike plasma weapons, it doesn't overheat in the same way. It runs on ammunition. But that same green energy appears again in a much larger weapon. One that doesn't fire precise shots. It fires artillery. The fuel rod gun. The fuel rod gun is massive. Slow, heavy. It's shiny brown with giant bolts holding it together. We start to see some repeat decorative Covenant patterns. 5 fuel rods make up its magazine, and you can see them sticking out from the weapon. It fires these glowing green projectiles in straight lines. These are physical objects with mass. Each shot travels slowly. They detonate violently on impact. The weapon visibly stores multiple fuel rods along its body, which means ammunition is not abstract. It's physical and replaceable. But the glow suggests something more. They're some kind of active energy containers, fired at range in bulk, with explosive results. But even then, this weapon still fires predictable physics. The next one doesn't, because it moves travel time entirely. The beam rifle is more of a bluish shade, seemingly firing the same sort of ammunition as the needler. Smaller bolts hold it together, and it has a noticeable center wheel mechanism. So far, the plasma pistol is the only weapon that has a colorful multicolor shine. The beam rifle doesn't feel like it fires. It feels like it decides that a target is hit. There's almost no visible projectile, just a quick line trace of energy after the instant impact. But that speed comes at a cost. The weapon becomes dangerous to hold, not just unusable, but hot. The user physically pulls their hand away, which implies the entire frame becomes a heat emitter, not just the barrel. The whole weapon is part of the firing system, a distributed energy conduit. And unlike the other plasma weapons, it doesn't vent dramatically, it kind of radiates heat, which makes it one of the most thermally aggressive weapons in the game. But none of these compare to the final category, the energy sword. It has a silver design with more sharp engravings on it. The strange Covenant text reappears again. The energy sword has no physical blade when not activated. When you equip it, the blade is generated instantly. 2 energy arcs form from the hilt and stabilizes into a cutting field. Although it's not exactly a blade, it's more of a containment system, holding energy in a fixed shape, like a lightsaber, until it collapses. Every hit you make drains that system, which suggests something important. The sword is constantly fighting entropy, maintaining structure against collapse. And when it fails, the blade disappears entirely. No backup, no reload, it just shuts down. Which makes it one of the most elegant and unstable weapons in the entire Covenant arsenal. But elegance is not something the brutes care about. The brute shot. The brute shot is the opposite of everything Covenant design represents. It's loud and mechanical, sharp and silver-colored, overbuilt, much more original than the prior recolored brute plasma rifle. It fires explosive grenades that bounce before detonating, which immediately introduces unpredictability. Because now the weapon is not just firing, it is placing delayed destruction into the environment. And it is magazine fed with a bandolier belt of bullets. And the blade attached to it confirms its purpose. This is not a precision tool. It's a close-range execution system with explosives attached. Every part of it is physical. Every part of it is violent. And nothing about it is subtle, which makes it the clearest example of brute engineering philosophy. If it doesn't work immediately, make it hit harder. The plasma grenade. The plasma nade is a marbled blue ball with that yellowish-orange heat pad we've seen earlier. A quarter-size hologram appears floating above its surface. The plasma nade behaves like a normal explosive, until it doesn't. It bounces off surfaces, but it sticks to flesh. which means it can distinguish between environment and living matter somehow. Once attached, it begins to pulse, then detonates in a controlled sparkling energy burst. No fragmentation, no shrapnel, just energy release, which suggests the grenade is not just an explosive. It is selective, it chooses when to bind and what to destroy, which makes it one of the most advanced tracking explosives in the game, and also one of the most terrifying, because it doesn't just explode, it decides. Covenant weapons in Halo 2 don't behave like props, they behave like systems. Every vent, every glow, every moving part, all communicates function, even when the game never explains it. And once you start noticing those patterns, you realize something unsettling. Those weapons aren't just hiding how they work, they're showing you. Not just in words, but in motion, heat, and energy. And in design choices that were never meant to be questioned. Until now.